So if you guys have score predictions, I'll do my best to catch them and star them. And then at the end, when Zach and I give our score predictions, we'll bring you guys' up as well. Zach,
Mhm.
Penn State is favored by 8.5 over SMU. The over under is 53.5. And this is an interesting game. I think that most people are going to pick Penn State here, myself included. I'm going to pick Penn State. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna try to
You're
make it sound like I'm not. But
you're not going to leave us in suspense. You're just going
no,
to just throw it out there.
yeah, I'll just throw it out there. You can leave
Okay.
them in suspense, but I'm just gonna throw it
Okay.
out there. But yeah, I mean this is a game though. You look at some of the stats. There are some similarities. You look at SMU's schedule, Penn State's schedule. It's not the most different thing in the world. Penn State did play the number one team in the country, and at the time the number two team, now the number six team in the country. So they definitely have that over SMU. But SMU did play BYU. They were good at one point. Clemson, they were in the playoffs as well. So this is definitely an interesting situation here. Like I said, Penn State probably going to get this one done, but I'm curious your thoughts on the matchup, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I think at first blush, I think it's easy to think, this is not an easy Penn State win, but a comfortable Penn State win. I would urge people to go back and watch the ACC championship game because if not for a couple of turnovers, SMU was the better team. Like they outgained Clemson. I thought they were more explosive than Clemson. I thought Clemson, like they had a really good first quarter. I think they were up 21-7. And then I think it was let me do math, 24-10 the rest of the way. And Jennings at quarterback, he's not the most accurate quarterback, but he's explosive, he's dynamic, he can throw, he can run, he's got playmakers. And like this is an offense that I think can really stretch you. So I know I think Penn State's defense is really good, but we saw against Oregon. Oregon's offense is phenomenal, by the way. So I'm by no means am I saying SMU is better than Oregon, but SMU can do things like Oregon. Like they have personnel that can exploit you. And so I think anyone thinking this is going to be an easy win, I would just caution you. This is a spot where I don't think Penn State is so good that they are immune from an upset here. Like I think SMU is better than people are giving them credit for. And I think a big reason why is because of the schedule. But if you actually watch them, they're explosive. Defensively, I think they're pretty stout. And again, you look at the Clemson game, they held Clemson to 320 yards. A lot of their points came off of turnovers and special teams. And so, caution. If you're a Nittany Lion fan, caution. Because this is a good Mustangs team. There's a reason why they're in the playoff.
Yeah, I mean they had a good season. I don't believe they had a ranked win this year, so but they definitely played some ranked teams. They played them very close. Clemson won by a field goal. I believe BYU won by either a field goal or a touchdown. And that one, I think that was like the very first game of the season, so it's hard thinking back to that one. But yeah, I think that this is going to be one of those games where Penn State, if they just play their game and play mistake-free football, they are going to win this one. This is going to be one of those games where if Penn State just allows SMU to make the mistakes, right? I'm not saying that SMU is a bad team by any means, but SMU has been known for making a lot of mistakes this year. They've not done a great job in the turnover margin. They are a team that has a ton of penalties this year. There's another team that we'll talk about here soon that has a ton of penalties as well. But in like this is a situation where if Penn State can do what they are supposed to do, just pass the ball well, don't turn it over, which that's not been something that Drew Aller has done a great job of this year against USC. He had what, 3 picks? Now I know one of those was, or was it 2 picks? I know one of those was like a Hail Mary type pass at the end of the half. So, but still, he had multiple picks in that game. Against Oregon, he had multiple picks. I still think back to that play that they ran to throw the ball up the sideline there, like right when they got the ball against Oregon. I'm not saying I hated the play, but I definitely think Drew Aller should have saw the play a little bit better and not thrown the ball. But you live and you learn, and it is what it is. So I think as long as Penn State plays that, I don't want to say conservative, but just plays to who they are, right? Don't give SMU the breaks,
Yeah.
and they should win this game as long as SMU doesn't do anything spectacular, have some kind of big play, big play machine or something like that, which they could. We'll see. But overall, Penn State just does what they're supposed to do. Drew Aller takes care of the football. They utilize Tyler Warren the way they're supposed to, and this should be a game Penn State comes out of here with a touchdown or two win.
Yeah, I agree. Weather will be a factor in just the fact that it's cold, but it looks like it will be clear. It looks like it won't be super windy. The thing I'm actually really curious
though, Zach.
about
Should be snow.
really, I'm seeing no precipitation.
Okay, I read an article earlier this week that said 90% of snow.
Well, Apple's saying otherwise, but Apple, my wife doesn't trust Apple. She trusts AccuWeather, so maybe the AccuWeather report
we'll
is
to bring up AccuWeather later.
Yeah, there we go. It's hard. Like, and so someone brought up the crowd. Like, can SMU handle the loud Happy Valley crowd? There's two things I'm concerned about. One, the way that tickets are being distributed, I'm not sure how, like, what the percentages will be on the crowd. Like, if it'll be 80-20, 85-15, something like that. But it's a noon game. It's not going to be a night game. So I know that, James Franklin will say he wants white out energy, but it's not going to be a night game. And the other thing is
which is just a travesty. Like, Penn State has been screwed over so many times by the noon game. Yeah. So for them to get the noon game once again, like, sorry, I know we probably don't want to make the entire segment about that, but it's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's no bueno. The other thing too, students are home, so like you don't have, like, I don't know what the student environment's going to be like, the student section is going to be like, but like that's a big part of what makes that atmosphere crazy is the student section. But like it's past finals. So I am curious to see what the crowd's going to be like. I still think it'll be loud. I still think it'll be raucous. But I think that's a similar concern I have for Ohio State is I think a lot of people were assuming that these home playoff games would be massive advantages. I'm not sure they're going to be massive advantages. I think the way tickets have gone, I think the way that the CFP is taking a little control, like creative control, I thought the advantage would be more stark for the home team, and I'm just not convinced it's going to be as stark.
I mean, I think you have the advantage. I'm not saying you're wrong here. I'm just, offering a bit of a counterpoint. I do think the advantage lies in one of the things that people don't talk about the most when it comes to the advantage of playing at home, but you have your home routine. Right? You don't have to figure out, oh, we're in a new hotel and we're doing this. And honestly, it is kind of an advantage for Penn State because there's not a whole lot of hotel room for SMU around that area. Now, I'm sure they were able to, get plenty of room there for their guys, obviously. But still, like, this is a situation where SMU has never been to Penn State. At least they haven't been to Penn State. I don't know if they played sometime in the 50s or something like that, but they've not been to Penn State very often before. This is a situation where Penn State is going to be at home, going through their home routine. They're going to have most of their home crowd, even if some SMU fans decide to flock there and stuff. They're still going to have most of their home crowd there. And this is going to be a situation where I think James Franklin's going to be much more comfortable. I think James Franklin has struggled a little bit on the road because you can see him get a little tensed up. You can see him get a little, agitated with the road environment and stuff. And it happens to almost every coach. I'm not saying it's anything special to James Franklin, but I mean, it happens to Ryan Day all the time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. Trust me, I know what it looks like. But this is a situation where even though, yes, maybe the home environment won't be exactly the same because the college football playoff committee, or not the committee, college football playoffs are coming in and telling them they have to do certain things, even though there are going to be a good number of fans from the other team there because the allotment of tickets and stuff like that, there still is the standard home advantage of you get everything the way it normally is for you. You're comfortable. You can focus on the game. You don't have to focus on packing. You don't have to focus on, where's my family? You don't have to focus on all that stuff. You just focus on being there, playing your best. And I think that really fits for Penn State. So, Zach, why don't you give us your score prediction, and then we'll do the other people's in the chat, and then
Yeah.
I'll give mine. Go ahead.
So I think it'll be lower scoring. Um, I I think it's going to be really close. I have 24-23 Penn State.
Wow. All right. You have it very close. Let's see. John Jacobs has Penn State 33, SMU 27, so he believes it will be close as well. And then John's has Penn State 35, SMU 21. Interesting. Interesting. Philip says, oh, sorry. Not that I don't want your comment up there. I was just trying to get Philip. Penn State 28, SMU 13. Don't know how to say your first name. Alyssa Gray. Penn State 24, SMU 20. I apologize for saying your name wrong. I'm terrible with names. Zach, I am going to go with a bit of a low scoring one in this one. I do think the weather is going to impact it. I think that Penn State's going to do well in this one. I'm going to go with 28-20. So not super low scoring, but low scoring enough. Nobody's going to be in the 30s or anything like that,
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to see a lot of these playoff games get up into the 30s. You see a lot of top 5 matchups, top 10 matchups. They kind of go that way where they get up into the 30s a lot nowadays. I think this will be one that stays below that. Another
Yep.
one here, SMU 26, Penn State 10. Wow. Blowout
Yeah.
for SMU. Watch out.
I do think that is very possible if SMU hits a couple of big plays early and then Aller presses. I do think that's on the table. And that's, I think I'm concerned about that for if I'm Penn State. Like if Penn State comes out tight and SMU hits a couple big plays early, that's a recipe for disaster, I think.
Yeah. Philip says if it's cold, could be higher SMU player. Cold spread. I apologize. Spread could be higher. SMU players have probably never played in the cold. Are we overvaluing the cold, Zach? Do Big Ten fans overvalue the cold and other people not playing in it as much? I'm not saying Philip is here. I'm just asking in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problems with the weather is wind and precipitation. And so if it's not windy, like cold sucks, right? Like it hurts when you get hit more. But the real problem is things that disrupt your timing and rhythm. And so wind, precipitation, like those are the two things that I think are really, really rough. I think cold, like I don't know, like I'm not sure where SMU is in terms of Texas, but there are places they're in Dallas. So I mean, it can get cold, but certainly not 28 degrees, which is what it'll most likely be around kickoff. So, but I mean, they've probably played in the 40s. Like it's not the same, but it's not, I don't think it's going to be a massive factor.
I think cold situations like this are bigger factors at the beginning of games than they are kind of throughout the game. I definitely think weather plays a factor, especially for a team that's not used to playing in it. But I think most players have enough of adrenaline and have enough excitement for a game, as long as you're not playing like, FCS Southwest or something like that, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're playing a big game, I think players are inherently competitive enough that they get up for these big situations. They get excited, and sure, there might be a bit of a shock factor for some teams that come in and play in the cold for the first time, but I think it probably wears off around halfway through the second quarter, if not the beginning of the second quarter. So that's what I've kind of always thought, but we'll see.